titled Growing Together, Strengthening Wellness Through Creating Safe Environments and Community Engagement. I'm so happy to welcome you here today, and on behalf of our team, we are so grateful that you're giving us your time today. So we'd like to take this opportunity to open this space in a good way. So I would love to invite our senior manager, Jem, to say an opening prayer.
Thank you, Kayla. Welcome, everybody. Dance. Ginanas ko midnawaw, kagibero tieganos. Mantu gawi sa enimiguao, kaginaw. I will now say the prayer in English for everyone to understand. Creator, we come to you today in solidarity, in learning, and we ask you to please open our hearts and our minds to the topics we will be discussing today. I want to thank you for all who are here, for all who have made this possible, and especially for you, Creator. Thank you for all the blessings you have bestowed upon us and will continue to do so. Egusane, ginanasko midnaw, thank you.
Fancy, Jem. So today we're going to tell the story of our team and the work that we do. The goal of this webinar is to essentially introduce ourselves to you, create some opportunities to discuss what wellness is, what that can look like, and share some of the strategies that we've learned through the meaningful and intentional engagement alongside the communities that we serve. But before we do that, I would love to take an opportunity to introduce our team, and I will go first. So my name is Kayla McCarney. I'm coming to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people in Mi'kma'ki in Sipekne'katik territory. I'm a daughter, I'm a mother, I am a partner, and I am a friend. And I'm so happy to be here today. I've been with the Red Cross for about 3 years now, and I really, really enjoy the work that we do. And a little bit about a strength that I have would be my ability to laugh my way through difficult situations. I'd love to pass this off to Jem to introduce herself.
Dance. My spirit name is Kawitimohtema Tibiskawe Pisemisquel, and I come to you from the Northhouse Cree Nation here in central northern Manitoba. To translate my spirit name, it means the woman who walks with the moon, and my given name is Jem Osborne. As senior manager for this team, I want to welcome you to our Growing Together, Strengthening Wellness Through Creating Safe Environments and Community Engagement webinar series. I am so happy that you are all here and that you have joined us. And I'm especially happy that we are able to share with you the work that we are doing. Egosane, I hope that you really enjoy the topics we're going to be discussing today. And as for myself, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a wife, a sister, and my strength I feel that I have and love that aspect about myself is that I feel that I'm a very resilient, strong Cree woman, which gets me through a lot of the things that, happens in daily life and some of the stuff that you're going to hear about today. So like I said, I hope you enjoy your day. And once again, welcome. Ginanasko midnaw.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jem, and welcome to everybody. Thank you for making space to join us today. My name is Deborah Aboud, and I have the privilege of living on the unceded Coast Salish lands of the Lekwungen-speaking people, also known as Vancouver Island, and in Victoria. I joined the Red Cross in 2017 after about 26 years of working inside and walking alongside the Friendship Center movement. And when I joined the Red Cross, it was to lead a project called Creating Safe Environments. When that project ended about 4 years later, I joined the help desk and the community wellness and protection team, which I'm still a member of. Something that I value in myself in relationship to work is maintaining and holding relationships with people and communities that I've had the privilege of walking alongside. Thank you so much, and over to you, Lisa.
Sego anyawa Deborah. Sego zeo gwego deo zizate yo jats walk skarewa ge gan hawaga ne diwa ganu. Hi, everybody. My name is Deodzite, which means bright flower. I'm a Bear Clan woman from the community of Ganhowange, located in what is known as Quebec, just outside of Montreal. I've been with the Canadian Red Cross for 4 years and community wellness and protection for the last 3 years. One of my strengths, I would say, is that I really am grounded in my belief system. And everywhere I go, I like to walk knowing that confidently that I can share my belief system and my teachings with people. And I am a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a sister, I am a daughter, I'm a great granddaughter, and I just love everything about what we're doing right now. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to the beautiful Janelle.
Thank you, Lisa. Like, my name is Janelle Jacesta. I join you from the Northern Shoshonesteen Territory here in Williams Lake, BC. I've been with the Community Wellness and Protection team for the last 3 years, and amazing group. I am a daughter, I'm a mother of 2, and I am carrier, Shuswap, Teltan, Casca, and I'm proud. And one of my strengths that I bring to this team that I do in my personal time is prayer, because that is the only thing that gets me through each day. And I will pass it off to Jessica. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Janelle. My name is Jessica. I am a granddaughter, a daughter, a sister, an auntie, a cousin, a partner, a dog mom. I was born and raised in a small community on the south coast of Labrador, on the traditional territory of Nunatuavut, and my feet are currently planted on Treaty 8 territory in northern Alberta. I've been a part of the Community Wellness and Protection team for about 1.5 years now. And before that, I worked in emergency management, focusing kind of on the impacts that crisis or disasters have on wellness. I'm grateful that you've all taken some time from your busy schedules to join us today. And I also look forward to learning bits about you through the many engagements that we'll have with our time together. So I think a strength I value about myself is that I always remember to listen. I was told once that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So I've carried that teaching with me. And I'll hand it back to you, Kayla.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. So now that we've had a chance to introduce our wonderful team, I would love to spend a little bit of time getting to know you. Although I can't see you, I want to know all about you. So in the chat, I invite you to introduce yourself, introduce where you call home, and like we've done, share one strength that you have that you're proud of. I would love to hear from that today. Okay. So while we're introducing ourselves, I think I will move it forward to the next slide. Perfect. So I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about the setup that we have today. So all webinar in the series will be recorded, and we're going to be sending those out to you as part of our resource package a bit later. So please keep this in mind as you participate today. For those of you who might have joined a little bit later, this will be sent out. We will have a question and answer period at the end of our webinar. So we ask that you save your questions to the end and then type them in the chat box when the Q&A begins. We're going to be using that chat to do our activities together today. So if you put your questions in a bit early, they might get lost. So please save them until the end. We also want to emphasize that participant feedback is really important to us on our team because it allows us to adjust our work to fit those community needs. So once you exit the session, a couple of questions will pop up. So let us know how the session was for you by answering those questions for us. If you have additional feedback that you would like to provide, we would be happy to share an email to you at the end of this webinar. We know that there's going to be a lot of information shared during this series, and we want you as the participants to be able to listen without being worried about memorizing the finer details. So a resource package will be sent to you that's going to include a few of our one-pagers, some resources that you can bring to the communities, and a link to our recorded webinars. Our slide deck, unfortunately, will not be distributed at this time. As well as this, I do want to give a bit of a content warning. There will be a brief discussion around the impacts of colonization, residential schools, and lateral violence. So please take a moment to think about who you can reach out to for support if you do need it. And I just got a message from our MC. The chat was not enabled at the time, so that's probably where that confusion is. So once you have a chance to type in your chat where you are, who you are, where you're from, and a little strength about yourself. While we sort that out, I want to pass this off to Jem to talk about our fundamental principles. Jem?
Hi, sorry. So, community wellness protection is one of a broader commitment to creating safe environments. The Canadian Red Cross has 7 fundamental principles that guides the work that we do. These fundamental principles are humanity, we serve people and not systems. Impartiality, we help everyone and respect diversity. Neutrality, we take initiatives and not sides. Independence, we support needs, not rulers. Volunteer services, we work around the clock and never for personal gain. Unity, our humanitarian work is open to all and operates as only one Red Cross or one Red Cross Crescent Society in any one country. Universality, we respect all nations. Our service is universal. We have come to realize that many of the communities and groups that we work with also have their own teachings or guiding principles, and in some cases, some of them are known. These are known as the 7 sacred teachings. The seven sacred teachings are wisdom, to cherish knowledge, love, to know peace, respect, to honor all of the creation, bravery, to face foe with integrity, honesty, to be honest first with oneself in word and in action, humility, to know yourself as a sacred part of the creation, and truth, to know all of these things to be true. I feel that these 7 sacred teachings can relate to our fundamental principles as an ally organization. It is a privilege to be invited in to work alongside and to learn from each other. This means that we have a shared foundation on which our team and communities can better and more meaningfully engage together. It is a true privilege and an honor to communities that we do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jem. And I see a couple of answers in the chat. There is a wonderful array of strength in this room with us. So thank you for sharing, and apologies for a bit of that hiccup there. So I want to explain a little bit about the framework or where we're coming from, and it's called Creating Safe Environments. It's a bit of a strategy. So it's a part of the broader commitment to creating those safe environments. It's a strategy that aims to mobilize local knowledge, traditions, and visions while promoting community priorities for risk reduction and resilience. So our strategy prioritizes wellness for communities, but it does not assume that we have all of the answers. Instead, we support communities as they map their own priorities. So through creating safe environments, we support capacity building in the planning, activation, and recovery phases of community engagement. So today, we will be focusing on the planning stage. So throughout this webinar series, we will hear from our social emergency team out of Nunavut and our recovery service team out of British Columbia. Both of these teams, along with ours, link together to create the wraparound support in all phases and in all stages. So in the planning stage, we have a really great opportunity to take account of our readiness when we look at supporting the mental, emotional, and spiritual health of the communities. So while things are relatively quiet, we can take this moment to breathe, to reflect on our own strengths, and to plan for new ways to advance our capacity. So this is where our team, Community Wellness and Protection, is invited in to support communities as they identify and map their own priorities. So today we're going to speak about some of the ways that we contribute to the preparedness aspects in community in a way that respects both the wisdom and the culture of the communities that we walk alongside. Our team will offer some technical guidance on how to support communities on setting priorities, building on their resilience, and co-creating culturally relevant programming around mental health and wellness. Now it's my honor to hand it over to Jessica to speak about our team's offerings, guiding principles, and approaches.
So as Kayla mentioned, our community wellness and protection team kind of falls into the greater strategy of our commitment to creating safe environments. So we are one of 4 teams that support our help desk for Indigenous leadership. The help desk is an Indigenous-led and ally-supported team that offers support and guidance to communities. We respond to the identified needs while building on community strengths and resources. Our community wellness and protection team walks alongside communities to support health and wellness in ways that honor community resilience, knowledge, and wisdom. So as I mentioned earlier, at the end of our webinar series, we're going to send out resource packages that will give you more of an in-depth description of our help desk programs. So included will be information from our disaster risk management, injury prevention, and health promotion teams. Today, though, we'd like to take the opportunity to really provide some examples of the way our community wellness and protection team can support your community or the communities that you work with. So we offer learning opportunities that promote wellness and healing, things like psychological first aid, bullying prevention, suicide awareness and response, and others. We can also work with your community to build upon our own or our existing programming and then tailor it to your specific community needs. We offer community-led planning and activities. This is really engaging activities where we can come together to strategize priorities. And then we also have a library of resources that relate to wellness, health promotion, and disaster risk management as well. And if we don't already have exactly what you're looking for, we'll always work our best with you to create it. So when we as a team were reflecting on what we really wanted to highlight about the work that we do, we found it helpful to kind of break it down in these 4 segments or quarters or pillars. And I'll briefly touch on each one now, but really as our time to get together today unfolds, we're going to each take some time to provide examples of how we ensure that we continue to work within our guiding framework. So we are committed to holding a space that recognizes the complexities of working within communities and with people who have experienced trauma, whether it's historical, intergenerational, systemic, or individual trauma. It really is important to, take a step back and understand what that really means. And then what are the considerations that we have to make to ensure that we're engaging through a trauma-informed lens? We're going to talk about community action planning just a little bit later, where we'll have an opportunity to emphasize on the community-led part. But this is really about understanding that community not only should, but they have to be involved in every step of this decision-making process. So from the first initial conversation or connection, through the planning stage, in the delivery of the service, to the feedback and the follow-up that happens after, really taking the community's lead every step of the way. And then I reflect on the 7 sacred teachings that Jem talked about earlier, and I'm reminded of respect. And it is critical that we respect and honor the lived experiences and the culture of the people we work with and the culture of the communities we work in, acknowledging that everyone comes with their own set of individual experiences. And we can not only take the time to appreciate the wisdom and knowledge gained from those experiences, but to really incorporate it into the way we implement our work. So today you'll have an opportunity to see how we incorporate each of these kind of 4 pillars into our planning and development phases in our learning environments and in our engagements. Back to you, Kayla, to set us up with a quick activity before we move into the next part.
All right, thank you so much, Jess. So before we begin, I would love to do a poll. And this poll is going to be reflecting on the statement that's on the screen right now, whether this is true or if it's false. So hopefully you saw a poll pop up on your screen. Feel free to give it your best shot. So everyone in a community, whether it's elders, youth, adults, children, all of them have the same wellness needs. What do you think? Is that true? Is that false? So we're about to find out. April, I am unable to see the results. Now we can see the results. Thank you so much for participating, everyone. So we have, with 15% of us on here today have said yes, 85% no, and 0% I'm not sure. So for those of you that selected no, you would be correct. Everyone in community, of course, will have different wellness needs. And oftentimes the easiest way to identify what those needs are is just simply by ensuring that the question is asked, right? So we're going to take you through how our team does that, how we walk alongside community in a good way. And thank you so much for participating in our poll.
So we've had many, many conversations over the past weeks and months about how we wanted to really utilize the time that we have with each of you today. And we were really mindful to make sure, this webinar was engaging, and we wanted to use your voice to really complement what we're trying to highlight. So we wanted to make more of a conversation of how we do it. We wanted to take the opportunity to kind of tell our story, a story that shows our commitment to the 4 components we talked about, a story that we've had a plan in place and had to totally pivot once arriving in community because their priorities have changed or shifted. A story that hopefully shows our intention and the honor we hold to be invited to work with the communities we do. So now I'm going to pass it to my beautiful colleague, Lisa, to start the storytelling with the importance of relationship building and understanding community.
Yeah, go ahead, Jessica. I just want to take you on a little journey through my learning as a Kanien'kehá:ka woman. I've traveled across Turtle Island working with and teaching alongside many, many communities. I hope to share with you some of the lessons that I've learned. I am someone who has knowledge of my own nation's ways of being. However, it does not mean that I know the teachings and culture of other nations, as they are all distinct. As Indigenous people, we do have the same shared experiences of being born on our ancestral lands and of being born into Indigenous families and community. However, we are all unique and distinct. That's what makes our nations different. In my culture, to build a relationship before we go into a community, we stay on the outside and we wait to be welcomed in. We honor this teaching and use this to guide our work. We offer support, but we do not enter the territory unless we are invited. When we enter community, we take the time to learn from them. We ask what the community needs in order to be prepared, and we let the community decide how they want us to help. We weave bits of our own lived experiences and teachings into every single training and workshop that we provide. Each one is developed alongside community organizers to ensure that it is culturally appropriate for that community. And I want to share about a little story that sits with me to this day. At the height of the pandemic, Indigenous communities were greatly affected, as were other communities across Turtle Island. Indigenous communities were already dealing with the issues stemming from residential school, being forced onto reservations, and modern issues like gender and identity, addictions, and abuses of all kinds. And our youth were to say feeling it is an understatement. This particular experience that I want to talk about helped me to understand how important it is to preserve our connection to our culture and the power that our culture has for not only us, but especially for our youth. We were connected with an isolated community in the very far north, and they had experienced many losses due to COVID, but also because of suicide. We had delivered and provided the standard workshops. However, this group of youth needed just a little bit more. And digging deep into our personal toolboxes, 2 Indigenous women, with the support of our team, arranged to do a simple activity with the youth around having hope and knowing that they are important and that they are extremely valuable to us. We did this by reminding the youth and their support with their history and their strength and the importance of who they are runs deep in their blood. That they, as the first inhabitants of this land, have deep connection right from the very beginning to this present day. They can tie it all together. We received great feedback from the principal. The youth posted words of affirmation around the school. Things like, we really are valuable. We are truly important. And we left with these students standing a little bit taller. And I really hope that they remember those teachings and they take it with them and they stand firmly in their power. And now I want to talk to you about how we honor our diverse cultures. So throughout the work we do, we have opportunities to teach people in a good way as we walk alongside communities. Many people come from professions that hold expertise, and others have cultural knowledge. There are ways to honor and value the expertise on both sides of these relationships. When working alongside Indigenous peoples, we are empathetic. However, we do not claim to truly understand their lived experience. We have to be humble. We do not speak or present ourselves as an expert. The community and the people that community are from are the experts of their very own experience. As invited guests, we can help them voice their priorities. We can help them enhance their toolkit, and we can help to put them as steadily on their path the best way that we know how. And in essence, we are an extension of their workforce. When working with community, we suggest that you present yourself as someone who will help the community remember the tools which we know they already have. Help them to expand their toolbox. Most communities simply need reassurance and validation to be confident. Just that validation to know that they're doing the right thing. We can walk alongside each community we work with by building and keeping good, healthy relationships. It has not been our practice to helicopter into a community and then leave without making sure that we maintain open lines of communication after our visit and our delivery of service. We take pride in building foundationally solid and good, trusting relationships with those communities that will last. And lastly, I want to talk about grief and loss. I speak about grief and loss often. In our learning sessions, we deal with loss in many ways, and some may find that difficult to navigate. Grief is a topic that is raw and it is real. It is the way our people honor our grief, our loss, and our feelings. I often use the analogy of being stuck in the mud and not being able to move. It is dirty. It is stubborn. It is messy. However, it is also very beautiful once you have gotten your way through it and once you have given it the respect that it commands. We can never find a way around it. However, we can find our way through it like we do with that mud. We find our way through it. It is important to find many people to speak about what you are experiencing. It is your story. Telling your story to people that are willing to listen is what is important. And no story is the same. No loss is the same. Honor your feelings and honor your process. Our spirits have a way of helping us through it if we are willing to help allow the process. Honor your loss with whatever your belief system is. It is important so that you have a sense of being okay with that loss and that you can move forward and not stay stuck in that mud. Now for listening, everybody. And on to Deborah and Janelle.
Thank you, Zeotzitsatse, for your words today. So we're now going to shift gears and talk about the co-creation of our latest module that we developed alongside community priorities called Lateral Violence. Before this, we want to give folks an opportunity to reflect on the concept of lateral violence. So in the chat, if you can please share 1 to 2 words that come to mind when you hear the term lateral violence. What does this phrase mean to you? How would you describe it? And I'll give you a moment. Yeah, exactly. What does lateral violence mean to you? For myself, lateral violence can be put downs, right? AJ, thank you so much. They said displaced violence. You're mad about something else and it comes through. Anamaria, domestic violence, acts of aggression, bullying, gossip. Yep. Violence from somebody with a similar status, resentment, blame, undermining. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Fear, sadness, anger, belittling. Hurt words said that cannot be taken back. Exactly. Oppression. Yeah. Bullying, gossip, dismissive, undermining. Internalization of stigma. Yep. Discrimination. Absolutely. Unacknowledgement. Unacknowledgement. Fear. Yep. Fear. Absolutely. I'm so glad that we have participants that understand, the inner pinnings of lateral violence. Thank you so much. Projected oppression, hidden agendas. Yeah, exactly. So thank you again so much for your thoughtful responses in the chat. So a part of our role in community wellness and protection is building, fostering strength, but it's also to create spaces for communities to come together to discuss those potentially harmful dynamics or certain dynamics in community and how that can impact community wellness. So as an organization that walks alongside Indigenous communities, we really do have to be mindful of the multifaceted impacts of historical and contemporary colonization on the work that we do. So it's my honor to hand it over to Janelle and Deborah to tell the story of how we develop resources based on community needs and priorities.
Thank you, Kayla. Many people believe that lateral violence is the last link in the chain of oppression. In walking alongside community and Indigenous organizations, lateral violence has been identified as a harmful issue that needs to be addressed. We developed this workshop based on requests to address community need. Deb?
Thanks, Jem, Janelle. So we began by extending an invitation to a friendship center that we hold relationship with to see if they were interested in us piloting the lateral violence workshop that we developed with them in person, free of charge for the staff that work there. An agreement was made with the friendship center that participants who attended the training would provide honest, critical, and constructive feedback that could help guide us and inform us if we needed to make changes for future workshops. The content and the training was developed to be delivered over a 3-day period, with the first day, module 1, focusing on understanding lateral violence within the context of colonial legacy and its impact. Modules 2 and 3, on days 2 and 3, were focused on building on existing knowledge, skills, and tools, and developing new ways that might help and support interrupting, reducing, and preventing lateral violence. Now back to you, Jane.
Planning with the community, as our CWP team has shared, to coordinate adequate supports in this training. We acknowledge the territory on which we are a guest. We create space for territory-specific cultural practices, such as opening and closing prayers, sharing circles, and smudging. We consult with the community through all phases of the workshop planning. For example, ensure adequate time to plan with community for elders and cultural supports, resource contacts, and members. We respect and invite the shared knowledge, wisdom, and lived experience of participants as a learning approach. We acknowledge that when we go into the community, we too are learners, and we are not experts on others. When in community, it is best practice to provide honorariums and gifts to show cultural respect and express our gratitude for the invite in. On to you, Deb.
So as we develop content or deliver workshops, we know that there may be some areas of discussion that can be difficult for some participants. And so our team works really mindfully to support community and participants through these difficult conversations. And some of the things that we do are to work hard to co-create an environment of safety for all emotions. Acknowledge upfront that the content may be difficult. We emphasize self-care and a self-care plan at the front end of the training. We identify supports and the resources available, and we provide extra support for participants as needed. Through our content development, we remain aware that in order to hold ourselves accountable to community, we need to be respectful of the feedback that people have taken the time to provide us with. In honoring our relationship with community, it's really important that we create a safe space to share, that we express gratitude to everyone for the time that they were willing to spend with us, that we incorporate the feedback into our work as soon as possible. So for example, in the Friendship Center, when we did the pilot, feedback was given on day 1 in module 1, and we took those changes and implemented them into module 2 as we could. We work to maintain connection and long-term relationships with people and community. We're respectful and mindful of community capacity, and we co-create future planning if invited. Thank you so much, and now back to Kayla.
Thank you, Janelle and Deborah, for sharing with us today and for the thoughtful and intentional work that you do with community. So as a final, Jessica and Jem are going to talk about their experience with another aspect of our work that ties together service delivery, which is community action planning. But before they begin, I would love to get us thinking of the idea of wellness supports. So in your opinion, and please drop in the chat, when would be the best time, in your opinion, to strengthen wellness supports as a community? Earlier, we were talking about the, preparedness, activation, and recovery planning. So yeah, when would be the best time to do that as a community? All right, we have preparedness, yes. We have now. Some people might say yesterday or the day before, yeah. Now, yep, perfect. Anytime, best to start early, always. Yeah, Sherry, that's interesting. As like a constant sort of way to do it. Anytime, all the time. I feel like we have a good group consensus here, right? Yeah, anytime in the preparedness phase. Yeah, exactly. So thank you again for sharing. Carlina, when we plan rehabilitation approaches, yes, so that could be anywhere along that recovery phase, working upstream. That's an interesting way to put that. I like that, working upstream. Yeah, exactly, everyone. So thank you again for your responses. Oftentimes we do find that it's a challenge to think about community wellness because although we do belong to a community, we are all people who have our own demands, and our own timelines and definitely our own daily stresses, right? So it's sometimes very difficult to find that motivation to come together to talk about wellness. But like we've all identified, and you folks have in the chat too, it's essential when we think about the impacts that emergencies, both social and physical, might have on communities, right? So it is my pleasure to hand it off to Jessica and Jem to talk a little bit more about how we can help draw that blueprint for community planning.
Thanks, Kayla, and thanks to everybody for participating in the chat there. So as you've heard bits and pieces of the work and kind of how we do it, you might be asking yourself, what could this look like in my community, or how could this look like in the communities that I work with? And the answer to that question is really, it can look any way that the community wants it to. So through community action planning, we work with community leaders to bring together a leadership team from different service areas. So this can include things like health, education, band and council, elders, youth, recreation, or any other agencies that do work in the community. And the goal is to really create a community action plan that details the community's priorities, the action steps that need to happen in order for those priorities to be reached, and then to establish a prevention team to take the lead on ensuring those actions move forward. So this session typically takes 2 days, and then following the planning session, the leadership team is then, and within the community, is then responsible for kind of maintaining that plan and then updating it as needed. So the group kind of starts by understanding and talking through the place that they're starting from, and then really thinking about what the signs of positive change would look like in their community. Then we move into mapping the community's resources and services that already exist. So I know sometimes, we tend to lean to the deficits of our communities, kind of the resources our communities don't have. And I think the reality is that list can be really long sometimes. But by mapping the existing resources, we're giving an opportunity, I guess, to identify gaps for sure. But we're also given the opportunity to be reminded of the resources that are accessible and available. So by mapping resources kind of in this larger group setting with representation from different community supports, it really gives the whole group an opportunity to confirm what services are available. And then after all of these resources have been mapped, the group then moves into identifying priorities. These priorities are typically broken down into categories. So it could be things like needing additional wellness supports. It could be more community gatherings, new youth programming. After all of these priorities have been listed and everyone has been given the opportunity to contribute, the group then votes on 3 to 5 priority areas. These areas are then used to determine what initial steps needs to happen and the plan for addressing barriers that might come up within the identified priorities. Sometimes it can be really hard to narrow it down to 3 to 5, but this doesn't mean that we forget about the rest. Once we action the first key priorities, we can then create the opportunity and the time to actioning the next at a later date. Based on the group's selected priorities, small teams are then developed to work on the actions that are to take place over the following 3 to 6 months. The group has an opportunity to discuss how they would like this information to be shared with the larger community, how they want to get community members involved, and how their input will be gathered. And there are a number of ways this can be carried out as well. It can be through a survey, a community meeting, an announcement on the radio. Again, really it's up to the people in the action planning circle to establish that plan. And then our team will take the key areas, the identified priorities and the actions, and then we'll compile it all together in one place in one document. And then how involved we are, again, is determined by the community. So we can be a part of regular community meetings on a regular basis that come back or that involve the action plan. We can be a partner in some of the identified key areas, so things like providing training, or we can just put it all together in a nice package and the community says, thank you so much, and I think we have it from here. So now that I've described, I guess, what the process of community action planning really looks like, Jem's going to walk us through an example of how we've done the community action planning with the community.
Thank you, Jessica. Well, to elaborate what Jessica was just talking about, we had the privilege of working with a Northern Manitoba First Nation community to implement the community action planning training that they had requested with the help and guidance of the Manitoba Red Cross team. The connection to come into this community was made through a personal contact that works within the community as a mental health therapist. She was given the task of looking for resources for the community who had been experiencing many social issues that were becoming tiresome for those working in the front lines. We set up meetings to collaborate on how would we be best to support them. We first conducted a psychological first aid training with those frontline workers to equip them with the necessary complementary skills needed to immediately address some of the issues that were occurring. After that training was complete, we then went into the community once again to work with those people that have some management and or leadership roles so that in the next phases of the community action plan, they could come into effect. We then sat down with them, guided them in producing a community action plan that they 100% own and would be responsible for implementing, as Jessica alluded to. We ensure that we are supporting their progress by checking in on them periodically, offering any assistance if needed, and just by being a support to them if they require. This ensures community has autonomy, and it also builds capacity. Everyone seemed willing to commit to this plan once the conversations had started. When we bring a group of people together, we see that everyone has a common goal, a desire for positive change within their community. In this particular case, all we really had to do was create a safe and supported space for them to start the dialogue. Ultimately, it was a beautiful experience to work alongside this community, and it was so nice to see the plan as it was being put into action. Thank you for listening to our stories. I'm going to now pass this back to Kayla to guide us into another activity about wellness.
Thank you so much, Jem. I really appreciate your sharing, and Jessica as well. Thank you. So because the time is escaping us, we are going to move along, but in the chat, I would really love you folks to talk about what you do to stay well. So on those days where you need a little bit more self-care, a little bit extra, what activities or things do you do to keep wellness a top priority? While we do that, we've had a couple of colleagues that we asked the same question to, and they provided us with some really, really wonderful clips of tips and tricks on what to do to stay well. So,
hi, my name is Tyler.
Here they are.
Morrison, and I'm the Indigenous Community Engagement Manager for the Atlantic region. And I was asked by the Community Wellness and Protection team to provide a message on self-care tips. Personally, my self-care tip would be going out to have a drive, listen to music, or even at home. So anything in the house, outside of the house, self-care could be with music. For me, that's my way of being able to relax and decompress after a long day. And yeah, those are some of the tips that I would want to give to you all, and I hope you have had a really good session, and looking forward to the next 2 sessions.
That was Tyler Morrison coming to you from a chilly Listugush. All right, next we have Alana.
Hi, my name is Alana Kehoe, and I am a program manager with the Disaster Risk Reduction and Climate Change Adaptation team. One of the ways I like to stay well is to go on walks outside and get fresh air. Another way is to get creative. For instance, I'm in a pottery class and absolutely loving it. And my final favorite way is to cook. I love trying new recipes in the kitchen and getting creative in that way as well.
Thank you to the beautiful Alana for sharing her wellness tips. And finally, we have Brandon. Now, I have to give a little bit of a warning for those of you with the volume way, way, way up. We have some drumming that's going to happen. So please be mindful of that as we move to our final tip.
Drin Hozo, Nekwinakai, Shoichai, Shosray Brad and Sutsek, Trundikuchin DJ, Tatra DJ, Indigenous Programs Project Officer, British Columbia, Yukon, Khatrada Hokai. Good day, everyone. So nice to see you. My name is Brandon Sutsek from the Trundikuchin First Nation from Crow Clan, Indigenous Programs Project Officer for British Columbia, Yukon. When I think of self-care, I think of music, and there's no better way to take care of myself than down in my basement, having myself a little drum. And as a wise elder once said, gotta have more cowbell.
I love that so much, so much. More cowbell always. Thank you so much. What a beautiful message to send on how to keep well. So as helpers, I think it's suffice it to say that we really need to be mindful of our own capacities and identify when we need to take a little bit of time for ourselves. So a big thank you again to Tyler, Alana, and Brandon for sharing your wellness tips with us today. All right, so we have arrived at the Q&A portion of our webinar series. So thank you for staying with us today as we talk about our experience. I hope that there were a few tips and tricks that you would be able to incorporate into your own. But before we open the dialogue for questions and comments, I just want to mention a few things, if I can take the time. So right now, you should see 4 quick questions pop up. Before we launch into our question and answer session, please take the time now to tell us how this experience was for you and any comments that you would like to make. We've also attached the csecwp@redcross.ca email. If you would like to get in contact with us to provide additional feedback, that is always welcome. While you do that, I will say we have 2 more webinars in this series. Our social emergency team will be speaking on March 14th at 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. They will be sharing how we can support community during periods of collective grief and loss, using their experience providing social emergency supports in the territory of Nunavut and beyond. Our final webinar will be on the 28th of March at 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. So our Creating Safe Environments recovery specialists will be joined by community guests, and they will be sharing their experiences with the 2021 atmospheric river flood event and the catastrophic 2021 wildfires. So this will be followed by a brief overview of the recovery strategy and the meaningful actions taken to support community identified priorities. We hope that you can make it, but don't think you're missing out if you can't. We're going to be sending out the link like we spoke about before at a later time. If you need to register for either of these, please use the QR code below or email csecwp@redcross.ca. I also want to be aware of time. I know that we're running a bit close to the hour, so if you have to leave but have some questions or comments for us, please feel free to email csecwp@redcross.ca. Now we would like to open it up to our audience to ask any questions. But before we do, I believe there was one in the chat talking about a flag. So I'll hand it over to Zeotzitsatse to answer that question.
That flag, to explain that flag, was during work with the community. I am from the community of Kahnawake that's located outside of Montreal. And I was told that about 30 years ago, I'm not that old really, but about 30 years ago, there was an exchange made between my local high school to the community that I was visiting at that time. So I thought it was appropriate to bring a flag from here to remind them of that time. And in return, that community exchanged a flag with me, to which I brought it to the local high school, and they have it proudly showing up there. So that's the story of it. And if you're wondering what the flag is about, the purple and white one is the Haudenosaunee Nation flag, and the other flag is Cross Lake Band in Manitoba.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zeotzitsatse, for answering that question. So we have one question. How important is it to have Indigenous representation to get relational when approaching community to ask for guidance on how to best support them from an organizational service? Zeotzitsatse, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'll answer that one again. Anytime that we go into community, it is very, very important to have Indigenous Ngwehunwe representation when we go in. We have a different way of doing things. And we kind of are straddling both worlds, right? Of being Indigenous, but also having that relationship with the Canadian Red Cross. So it's been my experience in the last 4 years that having Indigenous perspective, having an Indigenous voice, having Indigenous representation makes that connection a little bit firmer, a little bit stronger, and a little bit cohesive, even more cohesive. And I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Zeotzitsatse. Another question that we have from the chat is what kinds of gifts would be appropriate to bring to a community?
I can answer that, Kayla. So in collecting gifts, I found that if you ask the community what is appropriate is the best thing you can do out of respect for them. And in our lateral violence, there's collections of tobacco. There is sweetgrass. We had earrings done by Jessica. And just little trinkets, because budget is always fun, but it's really respectful to ask the community.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Janelle. So we have another question. How does a non-Indigenous person help? So I can speak on that because I am of settler ancestry. My ancestors are found in Ireland, France, and Norway. So I could give a lecture about this because it's something I'm really passionate about. But as a non-Indigenous person, I think the most foundational thing that you can do in working alongside Indigenous communities is to listen, and to understand that as settlers, we do come with certain biases, we come with certain perspectives that do not necessarily fit, and things that we have to really address as someone who wants to be an ally. There's really tangible work that you have to do within yourself and your own thought to be able to approach that. So I would say, listen, don't make judgments, don't try to be the expert because you are not the expert in the experience, but also, you know, encouraging, you know, that sort of listening and guiding that gently and with humility. Yeah. Deborah, did you want to speak a little bit on that as well?
No, you did a great job, Kayla. The only thing I would say for me is to ask how to walk alongside that's going to be in the higher good of community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Okay, so could you please repost the QR code? April, our technological savant here, if you could possibly send a link, or Anna-Maria, if you want to drop an email as well, we can send all the information as well. Oh, thank you, Nathan. Thank you so much. So I don't see any more questions. So with permission of the group, I think we could probably close this. So Jem, if you would like to say a closing prayer to close this circle today, that would be great.
I would love to. Thank you. I want to thank you. I want to thank the Creator, and I hope that your today will be a good day, and that the Creator will bless you in your walkings and in your journey. And I hope that everything good comes to all of us.
Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time to sit with us today and let us talk about our experience. Any additional feedback, please email csecwp@redcross.ca. But from all of us from coast to coast to coast, have an excellent morning, afternoon, wherever you're situated. And we are excited to come again on the 14th of March. Thank you. Take care, everyone. All right. April, if you wanted to stop the recording.